All right, guys, welcome to the Deal or No Deal. My name is Kwak. I will be playing your host, basically, and one of the Kwak brothers, real estate investor. And today is an interesting webinar slash podcast. Now, for those who are listening to a podcast, I'm going to try to verbalize as much as possible. I will be using a whiteboard, so later down the road, you guys can be listening to a podcast and watch the webinar itself. But I am going to use the whiteboard function to kind of illustrate some things. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and verbalize as much as I can so that while you're driving or working out and listening to this podcast, you can still kind of visualize what we're talking about here. So I got a couple of things to discuss before we actually move on and invite some of you guys out to talk about some deals. Number one, I got some disclaimers. Obviously, with webinars like this, we're always going to have disclaimers. So, number one, if you guys are sharing your deal, and if you guys are raising your hand, or if you guys are volunteering yourself and your deal, as an example here, I just want to make sure you guys understand that you guys don't share your address. Okay, do not share your address. Please don't make me liable, right, for people stealing deals or. I had instances where I actually shared an address live, like publicly, and I had vandalism happen. Right, I had people that clearly had intentions to want to harm and destroy my property. So I don't want to give any of my own addresses, even if they're under contract. I would advise that you don't as well. Now, if you feel like it's very important that you give the address for some reason, I guess you can, but I would highly recommend that keeping the address secret. I also recommend that you keep general vicinity or location or at least clues as far as giving away your deals and its location. We want to protect everybody, right? We don't want to have someone lose their deal because someone in this webinar stole it, right? None of that should be allowed in here, and we don't accept that, right? Second thing is that this webinar is going to be all about respect, right? We're not going to disrespect people, right? We're not going to call each other names because someone has a bad deal or not a bad deal. Especially no using foul languages, guys. We want to keep it professional. We want to keep it clean. We want to make sure that we are all respecting each other. And after all, we are all real estate investors here, guys. We got to respect each other in our industry. Do not see each other as competitors. Do not see each other as trying to, one up, right? See each other as a supporting group, right? We want to support each other. And one of the main reasons why I'm doing these webinars is I want to uplift you guys and help you guys become better real estate investors. Does that make sense? So I want you guys to understand that there will be zero tolerance for obviously any hate, right? Zero tolerance for any name calling, and zero tolerance for any sort of open and very hostile criticism. Constructive criticism will be given, but we want to use tact, right? Tact to deliver those constructive criticism. Number three, anything that I say in regards to taxes, law, legal, financial, I want you guys to be aware that I am not a licensed attorney, right? I am not a licensed accountant, or I am not a financial advisor. That being said, guys, anything that I say or recommend or do in this webinar and podcast are all going to be my personal opinion as far as why this or that makes a good or not a good deal. So I want you guys to be very, very aware that what I could be saying about a particular deal could be totally sought differently by another individual with a different perspective and a different lens. So just because I said it's not a hot deal doesn't mean that someone else can turn it around and turn it into a hot deal. Does that make sense? So some of you guys might be asking, well, what qualifies me, right? Qualifies this Kwak guy to be speaking and hosting this thing. So just to give you an idea, my brother and I were considered, people call us the Kwak brothers, hence our YouTube channel, right? My brother and I, this year alone, in 2017, we raised about $3.1 million of capital, private capital, right? $3.1 million of private capital. And I'm sure some of you guys have done it better. Totally get it. I respect that you guys have done better than what we have, and I continue to applaud you. Number two is that we have acquired over 20 rental units this year alone, right? So we're about to close 36 unit in 2 weeks. We just got an offer accepted for a 24-unit apartment building, and we're going to close at January 1st or January 5th. We're kind of pacing out things. We don't want to close too quickly. That's one of the things that we're going to discuss is how aggressive do we want to go in terms of moving into your next deal and so forth. And we've done fix and flips, we've done multifamily, we've done buy and holds. So I would say my brother and I were pretty qualified to discuss and analyze some of the deals and help you guys understand if it's a good deal or not a good deal, right? And for those who have more knowledge than we do, and if you feel like you're qualified to speak out, please do. And I encourage you guys to do so. Just give me a heads up, and I will unmute your microphone, and you guys will be live to talk. Right. So we have 35 people. We want to make sure that we're listening to everybody. I'm gonna keep my eyes on the chat box. And for those who are brand new to the software, yes, there is a chat box. You can type in your questions. I would encourage you guys that you actually speak on the microphone, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to unmute yourself, because this will also turn into a podcast. If you do not want to speak for some reason, you're sick or you just don't want your voice heard, then you can put it on the chat box, and I will repeat what the question was, and then I will say it and go from there. Okay. I'm not missing anything. I hope not. Okay. Someone's clearly drawing something. It's okay. It's all good. I'm going to actually disable the annotation mode for you guys. So, okay, cool. All right. So, first come, first serve. Who would like for me to go and discuss their deals? Anybody? Put your name on the chat box, and I will unmute you. And all of you guys are muted right now, so talking will not help. Put it on the chat box. Type in me, right? And we will go and discuss the numbers, and I will unmute you, so you guys can talk. Anybody? Come on, don't be too shy, guys. Someone's got to take massive action here, right? Who's got the? I have one. So Ryan, okay, cool, awesome. I'm gonna go and unmute you, Ryan. Ryan, you are unmuted. You are high. You are hot right now. What's going on, Ryan?
Hey, how's everybody doing? This is Ryan. I'm out of the Southeast Michigan area, Detroit, Michigan. And my day job, I'm a real estate broker. I handle industrial and manufacturing facilities, so warehouses and distribution centers. And my fly-by-night work is I put the money that I make from my day job back into real estate.
Cool.
Probably obsessed just like Sam.
Awesome.
Not quite as many acquisitions this year, but I'm in my first year of acquiring, and I'm at 5 units so far, and I'm hoping to get another 10 by the end of the year. Between myself and my partners, we're somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million raised, but we're using our own capital. We're not using outside money. But here we are. So that's a little bit about me. The deal that I have is in my general area of expertise. It's in the Metro Detroit area. This particular property happens to be a duplex.
Okay.
My background is in property management for multifamily, so that's the area I like to invest in because I know the risks, I know how to increase the value, etc. It's roughly a 100-year-old property with a 2-car garage, 2 stories, full-size basement. The property is currently in a rentable condition. If I were to give it a grade on a report card, I'd probably call it a C. Mm-hmm. It was converted from a 3-unit into a 2-unit several months ago, and the owner decided that that was the way he wanted to run it. The location is a popular suburb with strong rents. The units are very clean, and they should be able to be marketed within 30 to 60 days. They should lease if there is any vacancy because of the area in which they're located and because the units are actually very large for the number of bedrooms that they have. They're almost 1,000 square feet apiece.
Got it.
If you want, I can keep going. I've got little bits of information for the whole deal, or if you want to ask questions, how do you want to do that, Sam?
Yeah, I'll go and ask you some questions. And what is your end goal here? So is this do you want to fix and flip, or do you want to buy and hold? What's the name of the game?
So I'm more of a cash flow value add type investor. I only sell if the numbers can't be walked away from.
Right.
I try to look for deals that are, like Warren Buffett said, you can do a lot of good deals, or you can do about 10 great deals. So I try to find great deals.
Okay, cool. So let's get the basic gist of it, right? Because the point of buy and hold is to make consistent cash flow return. If you're not doing that,
Sure.
that's not the point. So, what are the rents? Or at least give me, are they rented already, or how does
Yeah.
it?
So one unit's rented out right now at $700 a month, and the
Okay,
other unit's rented out right now for $650.
got it. All right, so I'm putting it on the whiteboard here. So for those who are listening to the podcast, right now he said $700 for one. So right now, if you do the math, right, obviously this is gonna come to $1,350. It looks like as a total gross rent.
Yep.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So do we have a general purchase price on this?
70,000 is the target acquisition price plus closing costs. So call it 73.
Okay, 70,000 for and that's the asking.
No, he's got a higher asking price, but I think I can get it for 70.
Okay, so 70,000 is your target. What is his asking? Do you know?
He's looking for 85, but
Okay.
I've got a lot of points I can negotiate on, and he's not a sophisticated seller. He's looking to get out of the business and retire. I actually used some of the questions that were on your owner financing sheet, which you guys did a great job on, by the way, and found that a couple of those questions were really relevant, especially the one where you just kind of ask people what they're going to do with the money after the transaction's over. What I really learned from that, from doing it so many times myself, is that when you ask that question, you just unleash their vision of what they'll do after they sell this property.
Yep.
And it really changes the mood from how much money can I get to what am I going to do after I get rid of this problem. And that's what you really want people to think about, not the money. And I really like the question that you posed there, because it makes total sense as a buyer strategy.
Yep. Yeah, I appreciate that and your kind words. So for those who you guys have no idea talking about. He's referring to our recently released owner financing cheat guide. So if you guys want a copy of that, that's going to be at the kwakbrothers.com/cheat guide. It's just literally here. I'll spell it out for you guys for those who are watching. For those who are listening, it's THEKWAK, spelled brothers, right, with an S at the end, plural. .com/cheat guide. Right, CHEATGUIDE. So the cheat guide, we made it for people who want to get into owner financing, or who will like to at least learn how to negotiate owner financing. So right now, what you just told me is like perfectly ripe for owner financing. It's unbelievable. The fact that he's in his old age, right? It's a he, right? I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's in his old age. How do you know how long he's owned it for?
Well, that's where I think it also sets up well for owner financing. He inherited this property through his family. It's been in his family for a long time. He's second generation real estate investor owner.
Got it.
And he's not a good manager of properties. And that's what you find a lot of times with these second generations.
Most people aren't.
Sorry to keep it going. I
no,
love the dialogue.
You're good. So okay. So do you know it does? I guess the next question I would ask if I was in a negotiation situation is if his father died. Apparently, I'm guessing it's his father has died.
Yeah.
Was there a step up basis? Because when someone passes away and they own a property, and if they have a taxable event, in a case where the father basically gave the property to the son as part of the inheritance, two things come in mind. What are the taxable liability will be with that? Because I'm not an accountant, right? I can't give you that answer, and I don't know their situation, so saying anything would help anything. So my next question will be is, hey, have you talked to your accountant or your family's accountant as whether your father's unfortunate death has wiped out the capital gains? This is per stepped up basis, or has that not been done? Meaning, if this gentleman here, the seller, sells the property, will he be liable to pay the capital gains taxes? Is what I'm basically asking, right? So you, as the licensed real estate broker in the state of Michigan, you also have access to find out how much he bought it for, right? So that would also give you an idea of what his true basis will be if you find out how long he's owned it for.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So if he's
Well,
owned it
I
for,
mean,
yeah.
because he inherited it. I mean, he's essentially got a basis of zero. And because the property's not actually owned in his personal name, it's owned through an entity that he has full control over.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's probably absorbing whatever that cost basis is, and he'd have to pay a capital gains on their position. So I think his original basis was around 40. He's probably actually close to zero because they've held it for so long.
Yeah.
So his basis has gone down as depreciation has occurred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for those who don't,
yeah, get 10 grand.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. Okay, so Ryan and I are speaking and maybe speaking in a totally different alien language here. So I want to make sure I explain what a basis is for those who are listening, and for those who may not understand certain accounting terms. So what a basis is, it's another word for book value, and it's kind of hard to, I guess, explain the whole idea of basis over a microphone. But but as far as what I can explain to you, not being an accountant, and this is something that you guys should ask an accountant, is that every year you're allowed to depreciate your property, not the land. You're allowed to depreciate your property for tax purposes. So the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, has allowed landlords, investment property owners, to depreciate their property, their real property, for 27 and a half years. So to give you an idea, let's say you bought a property for $100,000, right? I actually talked about this in the owner financing podcast. If you bought a property for $100,000 27 and a half years ago, and if you sell that same property for $100,000 today, so same price, same property, you bought it 27 and a half years ago, and you're selling again for the same exact price, you will more than likely to be owing taxes on $100,000 taxable income. Because simply for 27 and a half years, what happens is your book value, the value of the property on the books in the accounting has gone down zero, because after 27 and a half years, the term is we depreciated out the property. So in this case, what's that now?
I was going to say, could I make a note there, Sam, on the depreciation?
Sure. Yeah.
So one quick thing for you, just because this is kind of in my realm too.
Yeah.
The 27 and a half year period applies to residential up to 4 units. Once you go beyond that, you get 5 or more, or it's any commercial property or improved land. It's a 39-year depreciation life.
Yep. Good point. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's a point that I didn't add. So either way, there's a depreciation schedule for, like Ryan said, residential property and 5 or more unit commercial residential property. So, but in this case, it's a 2 unit, and what applies is the 27 and a half year depreciation schedule.
Correct.
So in that case, right now, Ryan's in the most perfect situation right now. He's literally sitting on a gold mine right now for owner financing. That's what's happening right here. And what I would do, Ryan, if I were you, and I get that you're a real estate broker and you take pride in the fact that you can negotiate things down, I would actually much rather give him his price if it's under, obviously, if $85,000 is a reasonable price per the CMA comparables in the area, I would actually give him his price, but beat him up on the terms. Meaning, I would negotiate for the terms more so than the price. My philosophy, and this is just my philosophy, you guys can take it or leave it. My philosophy is that as much as it's really important to buy at the right price, it's also really important how you buy it, right? Recently,
I agree. Yeah.
I just bought an 8-unit property along with my partners and my brother. We bought it 0 down, and we basically assumed an existing commercial loan. What we had to do was a contract for deed that would cover. Yeah, what we had to do was a contract for deed that would cover the existing loan payments. So essentially, the seller just wanted it out, right? The seller just did not have the time or had zero motivation to take care of it, what it seemed like to me. I can't decide that for the seller, right? I don't know if the seller was motivated or not, but it occurs to me that the seller was not motivated. to continue managing the property the way that he was managing. So he sold it to us basically at a fair price of $250,000 for 8 units. All we have to do is we did have to put in about $50,000 of work into it because there were some damages to the property. But after that, we got an evaluation of $600,000 on that property. So how we bought that property was, it's amazing. Basically, we built a $300,000 equity spread, no money down into the 8 unit, and it was an owner financing contract for deed. So it's more so. It's great that you're buying. You know, if you bought a property for $250,000 and you later on found out it's worth $600,000 based on the income approach, meaning cap rate, that's still good. That's really good. But more so, I think I take, my partner, myself, and my brother take pride in the fact that we were able to buy it in the method that we did on top of the great price. So in this case, I guess Ryan can win can win both sides if he can get the price down to $70,000 and get the terms, right? So I would say, Ryan, I guess you can safely start negotiating at $70,000 target price and terms that you want. But if you can't get the terms, then if I were you, I would sacrifice the price if I can get if I cannot get the terms.
Sure.
Yeah. So if I had to sacrifice either price or term, I would sacrifice the price. Let the buyer have the price, but I want my terms.
Sure.
Let's see. Clark Patterson is saying, when did your father pass? Do you know what the value set at the time when you set up the entity? That's a question we got.
I think that might have been a question relevant to the seller's position, as a potential question for him. It's a good point.
Yeah. So
a couple other notes here on our analysis that I think are reasonably relevant that I think also are worth talking about here. Because it was a 3-unit, there's a potential to convert it back into a 3-unit.
Okay.
And if we're doing that, let's just say you rent the 2 top units for $550 each, and the bottom unit for $700 by itself. So you're looking at $1,800 instead of $1,350 in your potential rents.
Yeah, which
and you wouldn't do that conversion up front.
Yeah, that would definitely raise your valuation of the property based on income approach. Now, to assess this, I want to get a better idea of the cash flow. So $1,350s are gross.
Sure.
What do you have down for your monthly taxes, your property taxes?
Okay, taxes are $3,000 a year.
So like what, 180 a month?
Like 250-ish.
Okay, I'm doing I guess I'm totally terrible with my math.
Yeah,
math is not in my strong suit. Luckily, we have calculators.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. It's 250.
Okay, I'm actually gonna run this on my calculator. So I'm gonna hold on 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
Times 250 plus 500.
Okay, cool. Actually, I got a better idea. I have a way better idea. Perfect. All right. So you guys should only be able to see the calculator. Sweet. Okay, so 1,350 minus around 250, right? Let's say. For a 2-unit, and this is the insurance cost is the biggest question mark for I think anybody, unless you're a professional insurance underwriter. I think for a 2-unit, I can say safely $90 to $110.
It's gonna be about $70 on this property.
Oh, okay. So Michigan's totally different. Chicago, obviously, we're shooting it right off the.
I have a good relationship with my agent, so I can get them quoted very quickly. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
I got maintenance fees for lawn and snow, miscellaneous cleanup. I just kind of average it over the year at $30 a month. It's a really small amount, but the lawn's only cut 6 months a year, and the snow's getting done by the tenant.
Sure. So what I would do, because maintenance seems to be, and you said the property is 100 years old, right?
Well, I also have a reserve that I was going to give you too.
Right.
For improvements and for repair work. When I say, I mean just literally lawn, snow, and exterior, minor maintenance issues.
Yeah. Okay, so what I would do is so what Ryan gave me is called the actual. So what I would do is actual plus my reserve. I usually do like just a straight 10% chop, but because this is an older property, I would probably give it a 12% reserve or 11% reserve. This is something that I notice with older property is that the older the property are, you have to definitely definitely put in more reserve for what you're doing. So I'm gonna safely say $140 a month for maintenance reserve and the actual. That also includes your figure. And I'm also gonna, and I know you are a property manager yourself, but it costs time. So I want to factor time. I want to monetize time here. So I also want to subtract maybe 8% for management. So I'm gonna call it $110 flat. What else are we missing? Oh, vacancy. Usually my vacancies are flat at 8%. But I don't want to be absolute about it. Let's call it 8%. What's that now?
Yeah, I said that's fine. It's 1 month out of the year.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're looking at is pretty close to about 50%, right? 50% expenses. That's pretty typical. Here in Chicago, it's more like 70 because there's a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of compliance that goes into owning a property in Chicago. I mean, it's one of my sentiments that I have. A lot of people disagree, but that's just my personal opinion. So looks like we're pretty close to 50% expenses, which that's pretty typical. So if I was to do a cap rate approach, which usually a 2-unit, it's really hard to do a cap unit or a cap rate approach. A lot of 2 units or 3 units can be accomplished by just doing comps, in my opinion. I think cap rates are more reserved for 4 units and up. But I don't know. I think it may work, but in a Detroit metropolitan area, it could be a totally different thing where you can use what you would call it, a cap rate or a comp.
Right.
So okay, so here's what I'm gonna do for the sake of just showing how cap rate works. We got $680 as net operating income. So for those who are listening to the podcast, we have $1,350 for gross rent. We subtracted $250 for property taxes, and we basically converted into a monthly format. We subtract $70 for insurance, monthly insurance cost. We subtracted $140 for maintenance reserves and the actual, and we subtracted $110 $100. Yeah, $110 for I believe management and $100 for vacancy. So what we're resulting here is about $680 to a $1,350 gross income, gross income on the rent. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go and multiply 680 times 12 because that's our yearly income, right? And it looks like based on what I see here is that if we multiply 680 by 12 months, we get $8,160 of net operating income for a given year. So if we were to do a 10% cap rate on this, the price is just right. Like $80,000 or $81,600, you're getting a 10% cap rate. So a 10% cap rate basically means the price of on a price of $81,600, every year you're going to earn 10% of your purchase price as your net operating income. So that's cap rate, just stands for capitalization rate. That's what it is. So it would take someone 10 years to basically catch up to their purchase price if they were buying this cash. Now, if Ryan negotiated this to owner financing, it would be a very beautiful thing, for his cash on cash return. So this is not a bad deal. I think it will work as long as the financing works. So let's keep that in mind. $8,160 for our net operating income, and we're looking at $680 a month for net operating income. So now we got to determine if we are going to do owner financing. We got to figure out what amortization, what interest rate to even offer to this guy. So in my experience, I like to do less than 10% down for owner financing. If they're asking for more than 10% down, then what's stopping me from going to the bank, getting an appraisal, getting a way lower value, because the appraisal these days seem to come really low. That's just my experience. So what the banks are going to do is they're going to underwrite me, or in this case, if I was to buy this, the banks are going to underwrite me and see all the, my credit report, right? My tax returns, right? There's going to be a hassle of a process to go through, but it beats paying more than 10% down. So my argument back to the seller, if the seller says, well, I want more than 10% down, is, well, in that case, I'm going straight to the bank. There's banks that do 85%, 90% loan to value right now. So what's stopping me from doing the same exact thing, 10% down, and go to the bank and do the same thing, right? So
Correct.
that's what I would say to the seller if the seller says, well, I want more than 10% down. Well, I mean, again, that's what's stopping me from going to the bank and, right, going down that route. So in this case, 5%, what's 5% down? I'm going to do a quick math here. On $4,000, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I'll do $4,000 down. And most of you guys are hearing this like, this better work, right? It works. I've done it before. $4,000 down. You'd be surprised. A lot of people do take these these really small down payments. And so the remaining, which would be, I think, what, 60, no, I'm sorry. I'm doing my math terribly wrong today. $76,000 balance. Now we got to figure out, how do we want to amortize this? So what we're going to do is we're going to go step over to an amortization calculator. Initially, I'm thinking 20-year amortization at 4% interest. $76,000. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so at $76,000 principal balance, 20-year amortization, 4% interest, his monthly P&I payment to the seller will be $461. So what that means, that 680 minus the 680 is net operating income minus the debt service. Ryan's going to be cash flowing roughly around $219 a month. So that's
$4,000.
Yeah, which is a pretty conservative figure, knowing that we did 12% or 11% for maintenance, right? We factored in all the maintenance reserve, we factored in management, we factored in vacancy, taxes, insurance, the whole 9 yards. So $219 times 12. So his cash on cash return would be, I just lost the figure, about 50%. Yeah, more than 50%. Sorry.
Yeah, like 2/3.
Yeah. So yeah, 65% return on cash return, which is pretty darn good. So this will be my initial proposal to my seller. I would meet the seller. I never make an offer on the phone or on through email. Very, very low chance that I will get the deal. So what I do is I take the seller out to lunch or dinner or in front of the property. And that's when I'm going to make the offer. In person, when I can see their body language, I can hear their tone of voice, everything. So that's what I would do. Now, if the seller says, well, that's too long, I want you to cash me out, blah, 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 right? So what the next thing I would do, my next concession I would give them is a balloon payment. I would personally not do any balloon payment that's less than 7 years. Yeah, less than 7 years. The reason why I don't want to give a balloon payment, so for those who don't know what a balloon payment is, 7 years from now, if I'm doing a 7-year balloon, 7 years from now, whatever principal balance that I have left on the loan, I have to pay that off to the seller or refinance with another bank or institution to pay off the seller. So I would not want to give the seller less than 7-year balloon, simply because I think, and I have a feeling, that the Federal Reserve interest rate might go up, which may impact my ability to refinance in 7 years. That's the reason why I don't want to give them a 7-year balloon. If I'm holding it, that is. The longer the balloon, better, right? So
there is one thing I could know for you there, Sam, on the balloon. Yeah. If I may, just real quickly, if you put no prepayment penalty in there for the balloon at whatever the current principal balance is, I mean, that covers you in the event that you decide you want to accelerate the payment,
right?
And you don't have any
Precisely.
You don't have any penalty. You can lock in a low rate if you needed to.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. So you do want to have in your contract for deed or your owner financing contract, you do want to make sure that there is no prepayment penalty clause in there, just so that it protects you, because you never know. You might use my favorite strategy, right? A velocity banking strategy to pay off your mortgage faster. For those who don't know what that is, we'll go and talk about that later. I mean, we can spend a whole entire 8-hour class on it. It's unbelievable. But all I can say is it's a concept where you pay off your mortgage within uh, 2/3 less time and 2/3 less interest without adding a single payment or a single penny to the payment, and it's almost like magic. So, but yeah, Ryan's definitely right. You do want to include a prepayment penalty clause that protects you from not having to pay a penalty to balloon him out early, or to give him an extra principal payment, anything like that. So if Ryan Seller is asking for a balloon payment, because this is a 20-year amortization, I would say, well, Mr. Seller, I'm more than happy to give you a 10-year balloon if that's what it takes to do this deal. So that's what I would do. Okay. So as far as I know, this is a pretty good deal. I think, Ryan, you should definitely go for it. Negotiate for owner financing. I think you have all the ingredients. I mean, it's literally a low hanging fruit for you. I would be very surprised if you didn't get this deal.
Yeah.
Right. So we would love to hear a follow up story for another series when we do this again. So we'll love to hear it. But yeah, so thank you so much, Ryan, for sharing. Thank you so much for your inputs. I do want to cover some other people's deal really quickly because I don't want to spend too much time in just one deal. But I think this one was a great deal. I think this was a great example to show what could Ryan do to turn this into an owner financing opportunity, and how do you structure the financing on it. And you guys heard it from me. It's more so for me about how you buy it, more so than the price. I mean, the price is important. Obviously, you don't want to pay 30% way premium, right? You do want to consider reasonable pricing, but more so, I'm more wary of the terms and how you buy it, more so than the price. So, Ryan, thank you so much. Any last quick words?
No, just looking forward to more podcasts and being involved in the future. Thanks for your time.
Cool. All right, appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So, anyone else want to volunteer? We do have about 20 minutes, so I think we got room for one more. I have one. So we got Verlon. Is that your actual name? I apologize if I'm disrespecting anybody here. So I'm gonna find you here, Verlon. Antonio. Okay, cool. So let's unmute. Okay, Antonio, you're unmuted. Your mic is hot. What's going on, Antonio?
Good afternoon, Sam. This is Antonio here, and I live in South Carolina.
Okay.
And I'm looking at a quadplex that's been listed for sale for $75,000.
Oh wow.
The building is not currently rented; it's all boarded up.
Oh, okay.
And so the owners had the building about 6 years, and the owner is out of state. So this building was just recently listed about a couple of months ago. The configuration of the quad is 3 bedrooms, 1 bath each unit.
Okay.
Now I talked with the owner, and the owner had the building rezoned from residential to commercial. And he gutted the 2 lower units because there's an upstairs and a downstairs. I just found that out today. My initial desire was to buy and hold and secure owner financing, or maybe do a lease with an option to buy, to see if it's marketable.
Okay.
The area supports rents about $600 to $700 for this kind of configuration. Is not a high rent area, but it's low to moderate income.
Right.
It looks decent from the street, and the owner, like I said, the owner is already out of state, and he appeared flexible on financing because he is also an investor. Okay, cool. And I also did look at your checklist for qualifications to see which if this investor met that qualification. He had the property 6 to 7 years. I believe the gentleman is in his 40s. I didn't quite get an age, but he is. I've seen a picture of him, so he's a little older.
Sure.
And he is sophisticated, but he did not have the property in an LLC. He apparently he bought the property 6 years ago cash. He paid about $29,000 for it. And I asked him, did he ever use it for rentals? Apparently he did, but he's not. I got the impression it was not a good experience. He may have tried to self-manage. We didn't discuss it in our initial conversation.
Okay.
But I explained to him I always use a property manager, and I don't try to. My interest is an passive investing.
Right.
Meaning I like the buy and hold strategy, and so. And looking over everything, the property owner wants to meet with me next week to walk through the property and see what he's done firsthand.
Right.
On paper, I was intrigued by his willingness to do owner finance, and we didn't talk any numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just intrigued that he was actually interested, and I think he just wants to get rid of it. Okay. That was my gut feel. That was my gut feel.
Okay. All right, cool. So given what we know, so you said the property was boarded up, and which explains the price. I mean, just by looking at the price, it looks nice. It looks great. The rents will work. Do you know how much work that needs to be done as far as getting it operational?
And see, that's what also concerns me. When he said he gutted the units, I asked him to explain the lower units. He said, well, he took out all the walls for it to be an open space and make it his dream was to make it an office space, which is really not my forte. Okay,
so couple red flags that I'm hearing here is, and Ryan's pointing it out. So zoning issues is definitely one. And if I heard it correctly, he converted it from a single family to a four unit. Is that right?
No, it was always a 4-unit unit. Oh, okay. He just gutted out 2 units below to make it office space, and to have 2 apartments above.
Okay, yeah, I'm not a fan of the whole office space thing right now. Commercial rental place. I can see why he's doing that. He wants to triple net lease. It makes it a little more profitable. I get it. Just not a good idea. To me, I think if you want to keep it a 4-unit residential, keep it 4-unit residential.
That's what I prefer.
What's that?
That's what I'm thinking too, because I have more experience with rentals for residential than commercial.
Right, and Ryan's commenting here and saying, and I think he's absolutely right. If you research the commercial users that occupy the bottom units, and I guess he didn't even start in that direction, but you got to also do some research. Will it attract commercial tenants, right? If the residential units, or if the building is an area that have very little foot traffic, it's got very little traffic count, there's very little incentive for the commercial tenants to be there, right?
I agree.
Right. So, but if you feel but with research, with logic, with an actual rational explanation why a mixed unit will be much better, and there's a better chance that you'll get a profitability, then sure, yeah, that's a good consideration to have. My personal philosophy, my personal forte, I prefer to keep it residential, right? I would rather keep it residential, take less money than what I would have done doing mixed commercial. I just have more experience doing residential, so I guess it's more of a management issue more so than profitability issue. Yes, could you make more money doing mixed use? Possibly, yes. But it's the question at hand that will you be facing problems that you don't know how to handle? So that's the main thing. So if you know how to handle residential unit problems, that's a little better, right? Because there's things that you can do and cannot do commercial versus residential, right? In terms of lease and how you treat the tenants and so forth. So that's just my personal take on it. Now, you do so a couple things you need to find out, because if it's boarded up, anything can be wrong. Because you gotta go through the county records and find out if there's any judgment against it. Like if there were any trash judgment, that typically happens a lot here in Chicago. Like if you have a lot of litter and rubbish in your property.
Okay.
The city of Chicago likes to issue citations all the time with those things, and there's court orders and you pay fines. So find out if there's any liens, first of all, because if it's abandoned like that, chances are there could be. I'm not saying there are, but you just got to do your research. Find out if there's any judgment against it, citations by the county or the city municipality, and also find out if there's any structural issues to it. Foundation issues, roof, support beams, and yeah, Ryan just mentioned it, pending lawsuits. So look into the structure of it. If it exceeds the costs that you're thinking, because if it's fully gutted, this is just my experience, and for those who have experience working with drywall, you guys can speak out. But for me, anytime you do anything to drywall, like tearing out drywall and redoing the drywall and taping the drywall, it's almost like minimum cost is 10 grand. It's not more so it's not more so the materials, because drywall, you get a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch drywall. It's not expensive, but it's the work that is expensive. The labor that's expensive. So that's the problem with anything that's gutted. It's expensive. It's very, very expensive to do drywalling or repair of drywalling. Patching is a different story, but anything that involves with redoing the drywall is going to cost you a handsome amount of dollars. I've seen it because I've got a bill for materials for only $600, but my labor bill was like $9,000. So yeah, it's very expensive. Labor can kill your deal easily. So what would make this deal very profitable? So let's set the parameters as far as what is the line that would make this deal a good deal, and what is the line that you should not be crossing to make it a bad deal. So based on this number, and we're going to take an average of $650 per unit, $650 per unit. I'm going to share my calculator with you guys again. So 650 times 4. And what we're going to do is divide that by half. So we usually 50% expenses is general. I'm doing this because I want to save some time. We can go through the whole analysis again. We're just going to say it's 50% expenses, but usually what you want to do is 10% for management, 10% for maintenance reserves, 8% from vacancy, and of course subtract your monthly taxes and your insurance, or the best accurate insurance cost you can come up with. So we're going to multiply this by 12, and so we get a $15,600 of net operating income every single year. Not bad. So if we're going to do, depending on the area, and this is one of the things that it's really hard to determine, if you're in an area that requires a lot of maintenance, meaning you have lower quality of tenants, hard, they're kind of the tenants that you necessarily don't want to have them all the time. You know what I mean? So yeah, if it's a lower quality tenant in a lower quality lower quality neighborhood, I would expect to have a higher cap rate because I would like to have more incentive to be investing there.
I understand.
Right? The better the neighborhood in terms of the tenant quality and the amenities, the services around the neighborhood, and the general reputation of the neighborhood, the better it is. You can accept and tolerate lower cap rate because there's going to be less headaches, less problems with higher quality tenants. So it's a balance, right? And I wouldn't say that what I just said is an absolute 100% rule. There are some exceptions, right? As anything in life. So, but if this is in a neighborhood where it needs some special love, right? I would say 13, 14 cap rate is where I want to go. So what I would do is I would divide this by $15,600 by 15 cap, which is 0.15, and I get a valuation of $104,000 for the property value. So here's the good news and the sad news. If you want your $15,000 cap rate, you got to keep your repair less than $30,000 to get your $104,000 investment.
Understood.
So if you buy for $75,000, you put work of $35,000 or $30,000 into it, you'll get your 15% cap rate.
That sounds like a great return if we can do it.
If you can do it, right?
I I would turn all those units back into rentals. I mean, residential. I would stay away from commercial.
Yeah, and Ryan also mentions, $30,000 out of pocket costs would definitely impact your return, which I 100% agree. So cap rate is definitely cap rate's gonna be that's cap rate, but your cash on cash return is gonna be different. It's gonna be much lower.
Yeah, because I had to put up upfront money to make the
exactly.
repair.
Yep. And I if it's all 4 units that needs work, then I do have some doubts that you were going to be able to fix this up within $30,000 budget. But if you can get somehow a really good term, meaning this might be a possibility. I don't know if this is going to go all too well, but you might be able to owner finance the $75,000, just like how we did with Ryan. And you may have to use money. You may have to use some partner money or equity partner money to do the construction, and then you may have to do an equity split, cash flow split kind of deal.
Understood.
Yeah. So
I know a couple contractors that when I meet the owner, I'm gonna have a contractor with me to walk the site as well.
Yeah, have them give you a bid and figure out what would it cost to have a habitable and an appropriate level of rehab for the area, and then you can do it. Now Ryan's also suggesting do a rehab, right? Get it rented and refi. That model has been working really well until I think the banks are starting to appraise some of the properties in not so good ways. In case example, I actually just done a rehab. I put a lot of money into it, but I think we didn't come anywhere near as we wanted to. So we actually broke even in that deal, which is fine, which I'm okay with it because we're renting it out, we're cash flowing, but we would have gotten paid an extra $20,000 if we were able to refi it the way we wanted. The banks didn't appraise us well as we wanted. So that's the challenge with refining out.
Well, what I also could do, because I have rentals with no mortgage, I could get a blanket mortgage on a duplex and then do all the repairs on that.
Yeah, be very careful with that because here's the story. I think a lot of you guys will love this. Be careful with blanket mortgages and be careful with cross collateralization. Here's what happened to one of my good friends in 2008. So prior to 2008, this friend, I'm not going to say his name, he had close to 30 rental units. Very successful, right? He had like $2 million worth of real estate, cash flowing really well. A bank approached him and said, hey, we can basically blanket mortgage all of your property once, and you just got to do one payment. Really easy. We'll lock you in a cheap interest rate. Let's go, right? Pretty good idea for a lot of people. What happened was in 2008, that bank went down. So did his portfolio. So he lost all of his rental properties right there in one night. You see how that is? See the dilemma there. So while it sounds good to cross collateralize and use other properties' equity to start buying stuff, my philosophy is leave your equity alone. Your equity is like your precious egg. You should protect it, right? And yeah, don't do it, right? It's a bank trap to get you to cross collateralize or do a blanket loan and to seize your property if you can't pay. So I prefer to keep all my financing separately. Hence why I love owner financing, because A, it doesn't appear in my credit statement or credit report, and B, owner A won't know what I'm doing with owner B. So if for some ungodly reason I default with owner A, then owner B won't know about it. And right, of course, it's an unfortunate situation, and I hope that no one comes to that situation, but it may happen. Who knows? I'm anticipating another market crash sometime by the end of this year or next year. So yeah, be careful with the whole blanket loan and cross collateralization. It's a dangerous world. I personally wouldn't do it. I would try to keep all my financing separate as much as possible. Create a shield.
A word to the wise is sufficient.
Right. Okay, so it is 5 minutes. Antonio, I hope that this helped you out. I really do.
tremendously. I appreciate the advice, and I'm gonna put it into action this week.
Yep. And if you have any questions about it, and same thing with Ryan, right? For those who are going through the analysis, please follow up with me, ask me questions. I'd be more than happy to help you guys. So one of the last things I want to do, and this goes to the podcast listeners as well, is that I love helping people so much that I'm actually plugged into a nationwide real estate mentor group. This nationwide real estate investor group has helped me from start to finish, and I'm still not finishing with my learning experience. I'm still learning. Has helped me tremendously in my journey as becoming a real estate investor. So how would you like to have a conversation like this, like a group like this, meeting in person every single week? Would that help you guys out tremendously? Yes or no? This is going to all of you guys, so it's not just one person. Just making sure, right? It's going to add tremendous amount of value for a lot of people. So if you guys are interested, if you guys are interested in working with my mentors, my nationwide group, we're everywhere. So I know some of you guys are in South Carolina, Michigan, you guys are in Cleveland, California, right? It doesn't matter where you are. We have a nationwide group that's both online and offline. So if you guys are interested in working with me personally, like one-on-one, I do a lot of one-on-one times. I did it today. If you guys want to work with me one-on-one, and if you guys want to work with my mentors and my brother as well, go ahead. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a special offer for a lot of people. And I'm not going to necessarily limit, but I am going to put a time limit. So for only this month, I'm being very strict about this. For only this month, I will go ahead and accept 25 emails. This also goes to the podcast listeners. So 25 people to send me. So the first 25 people to send me an email by the end of this month, or, I'm going to make it a little more fair. Okay. I'm going to say by next week. So I'm going to do a refresher every week. So 25 people every week. I'm going to take you guys and get you connected to my mentors in my nationwide real estate group. So 25 people every week. Go ahead and send me an email at sam@novoelite.com. I'm going to make this a little larger for those who are watching the webinar. And for those who are listening to the podcast, my email is SAM, so Sam, at novoelite, NOV as in Victor, OELITE.com. So that's my email. Send me an email saying, Sam, I want to get connected to your mentor and your real estate group nationwide. I want to get these kinds of help. So what inspired me to do this for you guys on webinar is exactly what these guys did for me, right? Every week, I brought them deals and they're like, okay, this is bad. This is good. Here's some pointers, right? Here's some tactics. Exact same thing that we did tonight with the webinar with Ryan and with Antonio. What we did, we're going to do the exact same thing, but in a more in-depth, right? And there's more training involved into it. So the first 25 people to email me this week, every week, it's going to happen every week. You guys are going to get a quick webinar on how to connect with my mentors, how to work with me on a one-on-one basis. And you're going to get far more training than what you guys saw here. So guys, I just want to get a general consensus. Should we do a series of these webinars and podcasts every single week? Yes or no? Or maybe every other week. Maybe every week might be too much, but every other week. Right? Okay, cool. I'm getting a pretty good general consensus of yeses. So let's do this. Every other week, I'm going to go ahead and set up a time, same exact time, guys. Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central Time. All of you guys are invited. You guys are more than welcome to join and hop on board, whether you're participating live or you're watching and seeing how other people's deals unfold. It's going to be up to you. So go ahead, guys. Send me an email. 25 people. I see how many people we have. 30 people. So unfortunately, 5 of you guys won't make it. So go ahead and send me. This also includes the podcast listeners every week. So it's never too late. It's not like, next week you're listening to this and saying, oh no, I missed out. No. Every week I'm going to be taking 25 people. I'm going to introduce you to my mentors. As long as you're not crazy, as long as you're ethical, legal, moral, right? And if you guys truly believe in helping other people as well as just as I am here, you guys are more than welcome to work with my mentors. We want to work with highly qualified individuals. We want to work with highly quality individuals that also like to contribute back to other individuals, just like what we're doing here. So guys, it is 8 o'clock. Any last minute questions as far as how I can help you guys do more real estate? Anybody? Any last questions? Napoleon, raise your hand. Okay, so I'm going to go to Napoleon and I'm going to go to Ryan. I'm going to unmute you guys. Give me 1 second. I need to find your guys' name. I'm looking at a list. So hold on 1 second. Mute. So we got Napoleon. I'm looking for you, buddy. Hold on. Oh, there it is. Okay, Napoleon, you're unmuted. So what is your question that you have?
Hey, Sam. I know you just gave out your email, but I wanted to know, are you currently looking for any interns? I'm happen to be in Chicago with you, brother.
That's awesome. You know what? Hey, send me an email. Send me an email saying, hey, I wanna learn from you as a local connection. Just send me an email and then we'll grab coffee. Cool?
Great.
Awesome. All right, go ahead. And by the way, you have a sweet name. I wish I had that name. I hope you conquer the world. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and you back here, Napoleon. 1 second. Okay, I believe Ryan had a question. I'm going to go to Ryan. So Ryan, you're unmuted. What's up, buddy?
Hey, wanted to know, when you're driving for dollars or when you're out there calling for deals, what's your favorite way to initiate the conversation and drum up the interest without giving away your level of sophistication, so that the owner is interested in considering what you have to say and they don't just shy off the phone because they have a property you want to buy? I mean, you're not always going to have an incoming automatic list of who's getting divorced this month. So right. A lot of the driving for dollars results in the opportunities that are out there. Mm-hmm. What kind of things do you say to get your foot in the door to the property, start the conversation?
That makes sense. Okay. So what I like to do, and this is another secret of mine, you guys can write it down. I guess it's no longer a secret because I'm openly talking about it. So what I like to do is, instead of calling for sale by owner signs, although for sale by owner signs do work in most cases, I just don't like to call for sale by owner signs. Or I do, and I'm being opportunistic, but I do call it. But there's a lot of competition in terms of for sale by owner. I do better when I call for rent signs and ask them if they're interested in selling. The psychology behind that is because the landlord's going through a vacancy. And most landlords, when they go through more than 2 months of vacancy, start to have an anxiety attack. So what I do is I call the landlord, ask them if they're interested in selling, and usually every 20 calls, it usually results in yes. So the next step from there, I would say, well, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, could I come by and see the property? Can I come ask you some questions? Usually I like to make an offer right on the spot. So that's usually how I like to go and transition into that conversation.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, and also because you are a real estate broker, you do have to disclose, just so you know. Yeah, just make sure. Okay, thanks, Ryan. All right, next question. Let's see here. I got Amanda asking me a private question. So Amanda is asking, so do you do local deals? Yes, I do. If you mean local as in Chicagoland, or do you mean like local in your areas? So I'm looking at the chat box here. Local in your area. Okay, yeah. So yep. So right now I do real estate deals primarily in my county, not Cook County, which is the worst nightmare in the world. I do my deals primarily in Kane County, Illinois, and Will County, and also Kendall County. Some of the more tax-friendly, landlord-friendly county. Not the best, but still better than Cook County. Anyone else have questions? I do see raised hands. Let's see here. Oh, hold on. Anybody? You guys can put it on your chat box if you have any questions remaining. Lynn's phone. Lynn, did you have a question? I'm guessing. Can I unmute you? I just want to make sure you addressing everyone's questions. If you guys can't find a chat box, that's you guys are more than welcome to ask me a question through the email. Just so you know. All right, so it looks like we don't have much questions left. And if you do have any, and if you can't seem to figure out the software, I do apologize, but you can ask me a question via email, and I'll be more than happy to answer it for you guys. So guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. We had a lot of people today. I had 38 people. That's fantastic. And Ryan, definitely, you're more than welcome to come on board and contribute. Love to have you. So this podcast is recorded. I'm going to go ahead and put it on SoundCloud. You guys can listen to it anytime, download it, put it on your phone, listen to it while you're working out. It helps me know, it helps me going to bed that you guys are listening to my voice, lovely voice, working out, right, driving. And if you guys need to rewatch this webinar, I will go on and send out an email broadcast to everybody telling you exactly how to get this webinar recording. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in about 2 weeks. Have a good day. I should say have a good night, and go do some real estate deals. All right, take care, guys.